Inspiring K9 discovers little girl in snow, one heartwarming whisper of hope changed everything. In the small town of Maplewood, where every sidewalk was dusted with crushed dreams and a blanket of snow, the community felt the chill of more than just winter. This year's annual winter festival should have promised warm hugs and steaming mugs of cocoa, yet the air was thick with a tension that clutched at people's hearts. Among the families bustling to prepare for the festivities, hope simmered beneath frail smiles, brittle as the ice clinging to the eaves. Max, the devoted K9 of the volunteer fire department, trotted down the snow-covered path, his fur thick and warm against the biting cold. Every member of Maplewood adored him. He was a constant, a loyal companion who didn't just serve, he brought comfort. His amber eyes sparkled with a knowing wisdom, as if to say, "We'll get through this." But what they couldn't foresee was how that very loyalty would soon put him in the heart of the storm. As families hustled to hang garlands and string lights, joy swirled through the streets, interrupted only by hushed whispers of grievances that hung like smoke. Across town, a single mother, Sarah, trudged home carrying groceries that felt heavier with each passing day. With her daughter, Lily, sitting in the grocery cart, she tried to muster a smile, though her heart ached with the knowledge that dinner would come from the goodwill of neighbors rather than her own fading pocket. On that snowy evening, joy turned to chaos when Lily wandered outside to build a snowman, her giggles echoing sweetly in the dusk. When she didn't return, the happiness of Maplewood trembled. "Lily!" Sarah cried, panic overtaking her voice. Within moments, neighbors formed a search party, but confusion lingered, and arguments bubbled over old resentments as accusations flew like the restless winds. Max, sensing the rising discord, took it upon himself to begin a patrol in the falling snow. Before families could fully comprehend the depth of their fissures, Max's nose caught a faint scent, guiding him toward an area thick with worry. Suddenly, through the swirling snow, he found her, a small, tremulous figure buried and alone. He barked, his heart racing as if to say, "Over here." Relief washed over him as he nudged Lily gently. But when the townsfolk arrived and saw her frozen form, despair flooded the community. "Lily!" Sarah's voice pierced through the crowd. Hope had turned to horror. The fire department rushed into action, but the frigid winter held tight onto secrets and past wounds. The divisions that ran deep were now laid bare, testing their community's spirit. Did they dare to blame the single mom struggling to make ends meet, rather than rally for the child in peril? In that moment, Max became more than just a K9. His instinctual loyalty served as a guiding light through a growing storm of uncertainty and blame. As the town's desperation peaked, he did the unthinkable. He leaped into the thick blanket of snow, tirelessly sniffing for any sign of the little girl. His dedication pulled families from their clutches of anger and past grievances. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as exhaustion threatened to overshadow their hope, Max's instinct led him further, unearthing a path through the tumultuous emotions. Families steadily joined him, united on their one shared purpose: Lily's safety. They fought past resentment, the allure of blame giving way to the glimmers of connection, as they all came together with one goal in sight. But questions hovered in the frigid air. Could they truly reconcile their differences? Would forgiveness blossom from this tragedy? As they rallied behind Max, hope flickered dimly in every heart, leaving a sense of shared anticipation hanging thick, waiting for the answer to emerge amid the snow. Would Maplewood rise again, or would the weight of their past drag them under? The echoes trembled, but resilience hung in the balance, urging them forward into the unknown. Max could feel the tension rising in the air as the search party pressed on, lights flickering like fireflies against the blizzard's wrath. Each gust of wind carried with it the chilling reminder of the stakes at hand. The laughter of earlier, the joy of the festival, lay buried beneath the snow, leaving only fear and desperation. "Max!" A voice called out, cutting through the howling wind. It was Officer Harris, who had joined the search after hearing the news on the radio. He knew how much Max meant to the town. "Do you think you can find her, boy?" he asked, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. The K-9 looked up at him, determination glimmering in his eyes. With a powerful leap, Max took off again, his senses heightened, his heart racing with purpose. Each step he took was not just for himself, it was for the little girl, for her mother, and for all the families now intertwined by urgency. As he delved deeper into the swirling storm, Sarah's cries of distress summoned even more townsfolk. One by one, lights flickered on in the houses, illuminating faces that were drawn with worry and grief. Neighbors reached for each other, grasping hands together not to fight, but to give strength. "Help is on the way, Sarah," one woman shouted, her voice quaking but resolute. "We will find her." The crowd began to spread out, following Max's lead. Together, they forged through the drifts, a tapestry of hope stitched from the threads of shared fear. Bitter arguments about petty grievances gave way to vows of support. Each time Max let out a bark sharp and urgent, it felt as if he was pulling them closer, whispering that they weren't alone. Then, from amidst the howling wind, Sarah's voice broke through once more, infused with fervent hope. "Lily, can you hear me? We're coming. Please, just hold on." Every syllable was like a lifeline being thrown into the raging sea, and the warmth of her love filled the cold night air. Max paused, sensing something. Within the jaws of encroaching panic, a glimmer of recognition pierced through the haze of despair. Leaning into the whisperings of the wind, he caught a different scent, a hint of warmth and familiarity. With renewed vigor, he zigzagged through the snow, drawn by instinct. His paws created small mountains in the otherwise untouched blanket, leaving a trace of his relentless pursuit, but just as he rounded the next drift, a sudden gust blew harshly against him, as if trying to dissuade him, and it carried was that a soft whimper? He skidded to a halt and strained to listen. There it was again, fleeting yet unmistakable. Max lowered his nose, shifting through the snow with his skilled paws, digging through the unsettled snow where moments before there had been silence. In the heart of the storm, hope surged anew, each heartbeat echoing alongside Sarah's prayers. The townsfolk had brushed aside their animosities, they were now united in the search for little Lily, hearts beating as one. As they closed in around Max, whispering encouragement, hope began to blossom anew in their chests. But they hesitated, catching their breath, holding on to a ray of belief. Would it be enough? Max's discovery wasn't just about finding Lily, it was about rekindling the spirit of a town that had forgotten what it felt like to stand together. As the dark clouds began to part, revealing glimmers of moonlight on the snow, the question lingered: would they emerge from this trial stronger than before, or would their divisions pull them apart once again? And just as they thought they were close, a sudden silence fell upon the crowd. Had they finally reached her? Only time would reveal what lay buried beneath the snow. Max's heart pounded fiercely in his chest, what felt like the weight of the world resting on his shoulders. With every ounce of energy, he dug deeper into the snow, his paws working rhythmically until they broke through to something soft and fragile. A gasp rippled through the crowd behind him. They could hear it now, a soft whimper, a plea that tugged at their very souls. The moment electric with hope, the townsfolk stood frozen, eyes wide, breaths held. They sought signs of life in the storm's chaos, not wanting to miss this fragile flicker. "Lily!" Sarah shouted, her voice now shaky but fierce. "Hang on, baby. Just hold on." Max dug furiously, mining the cold earth until his claws caught something wool, pink and soft. A small boot. He whined, nudging it gently with his nose as if to coax the little girl back to him. And then, as if the wind answered his call, he caught a glimpse of a tiny body buried beneath the snow, motionless. "Sarah!" Officer Harris bellowed, thick urgency in his voice as he pushed forward through the crowd. The townsfolk surged behind him, their faces grim but filled with a surge of determination. They had come too far to turn back now, everyone united in this urgent quest to save the little girl who had meant so much to all of them. "Max!" Officer Harris barked, as he knelt down, his hands shaking in the chill. "You've found her. Keep digging." With a new wave of energy, Max went to work, his instincts guiding him as he gently cleared away the snow. The world around him faded, the chaos and despair washing away, replaced only by the smell and warmth of hope. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, he uncovered a small face, pale but alive, framed by the soft curls of hair that glistened like the stars above. The townsfolk gasped collectively, and Sarah fell to her knees, tears streaming down her cheeks as she reached for her daughter. "Lily! My baby!" Max stepped back, sensing the shift as the warmth of love rushed back into that small, frozen body. Sarah's fingers were trembling as she brushed the snow from Lily's eyelids, and they fluttered open, drowsy yet radiant. Their eyes met, an unspoken bond sparking between them as the swirling storm around them began to quiet. "Mommy?" Lily's voice was tiny, but it rang out like a beacon of joy. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm right here." Sarah's heart soared, her relief crashing over her like a tidal wave. Arms tight around Lily, she pulled her close, warmth sinking into her child, thawing away the remnants of fear. Cheers erupted from the crowd, echoes of joy that seemed to dance with the snowflakes still falling. Max let out a bark, a booming celebration resonating through the air. He was their hero, their savior, and for that moment, he felt every heart lifting, healed by the miracle of reunion. But just as the village began to rejoice, a sharp cry from the edge of the group cut through the cheers. "Wait! What about the others?" The question hung in the air, stark against the backdrop of joy. Faces turned, realities crashing back in, as the winds began to swirl again, heavier now, chilling hopes that flickered in the night. And then, within that swirling storm, another sound emerged, one pleading from the shadows. Did the blizzard hide more that needed to be found? What other stories remain buried under the snow, waiting for the light of hope to guide them home? As the cheers began to fade, an uncomfortable tension settled over the crowd. No longer were they simply celebrating the miraculous return of little Lily, fear crept in like the bitter chill that accompanied the storm. The looming question danced through their minds: who else was still out there? Max, sensing the shift in energy, stood tall, fur bristling with resolve. Though he had just uncovered a life, there was an unmistakable urgency within him. The soft whimper, still echoing faintly in the storm, tugged at his instincts. He strained his ears, his nose twitching as it caught remnants of scents on the wind. "Lily, can you walk?" Sarah's voice cracked with worry. She gently held her daughter, the warmth they had lost slowly seeping back, but the shadows of fear loomed heavy on Sarah's heart. I can try, Mommy," Lily whispered, her tiny body trembling not just from the cold but the weight of her ordeal. She pushed herself into a sitting position, her eyes scanning the faces surrounding her, confusion flickering over her features. Officer Harris, sensing the gravity of the situation, rallied the townsfolk. "We need to form search parties. If anyone is lost, we need to find them now." His authoritative voice cut through the snowy haze, urging the villagers into action. Max's gaze darted around. He saw the concern etched on each face, felt the desperation in the air. The jubilance of reunion was already fading, replaced by a stark reality that expanded the horizon of tragedy. This was about more than Lily now, it was about all lives intertwined in this bitter storm. The search parties formed quickly. Groups of villagers bundled up and armed themselves with shovels and flashlights. They set off into the swirling white, whispering prayers that echoed off the trees, their breath misting in the freezing air. "Max, stay with Sarah and Lily," Officer Harris commanded, firm yet understanding. There was no room for hesitation or doubt when lives were at stake. Max nodded, instinctively knowing what needed to be done. He would protect this family, but deep inside, he yearned to keep searching. The faint cries beckoned like shadows dancing at the edges of his consciousness. Then, just as the teams began their thorough sweep through the snow-laden trees, another sound rose, sharper and more frantic. "Help! Someone, please!" It carried on the wind, wavering but full of need. Max's heart skipped a beat. Without waiting for a command, he burst into action, racing toward the sound, each pulse of his paws matching the rapid, determined beats of his heart. The world around him blurred as he concentrated on that single, desperate voice. "Max, wait!" Sarah called after him, her tone a mix of worry and trust. But he was already lost in the storm, striving to find the source of that cry. The snow whipped against his fur, blinding him, yet he pushed forward, guided by instinct and the flickering hope that this would not be the end. As he tore through the snow, a sinking feeling crept into his chest. Could this be another innocent lost, or was the storm wrapping around them all, claiming more than just dreams? The darkness of the night concealed secrets, and as he raced deeper, he wondered who else was hidden beneath the surface of the cold white blanket that seemed to blanket everything. Would he be their beacon, too, or would he find something far worse than he could imagine? The agonizing uncertainty hung in the air, and with every step he took into the abyss, the very fate of another person weighed heavily on his shoulders. Would they all return home alive and warm? Max pushed onward, determination etched into every fiber of his being. The wind howled, tossing snowflakes like tiny daggers, but he wasn't deterred. Each time he called out, his voice was met only by the storm, yet the frantic cry pulsed through the air like a heartbeat, begging for rescue. "Help!" The voice was clearer now, a child's voice, both fragile and fierce. He followed that plea, weaving through the trees that loomed like dark sentinels in the swirling snow. His paws broke through the thin crust of ice, sending sprays of slush into the air, but he kept going. Somehow, he knew he was getting closer. Behind Max, the village was alive with activity. He could hear the distant murmurs of voices, the shovels digging through the snow, and the crackling of flashlights piercing the darkness. Yet he felt a pull, a weight that kept him focused solely on the cry. He had to find her. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of movement ahead, a flash of color against the stark white ground. Max skidded to a halt, his heart racing. Was it her? Desperate hope surged within him. Bursting through the last line of trees, he found a small figure half buried in the snow. It was a little girl, shivering and alone, her cheeks pink against the frosty air. Her eyes, wide and frightened, seemed to search for reassurance as she clutched a faded teddy bear. "Hey there!" Max barked softly, approaching her slowly. He wagged his tail, allowing his soothing energy to flow toward her. "You're safe now." The girl blinked in surprise, her voice barely a whisper. "Are you, a dog?" "Yeah, the best kind," he replied, his voice filled with warmth. "What's your name?" "I'm Ellie," she said, her small body trembling. "I got lost when I tried to find my way home." Max felt a jolt of sadness. "We're going to get you home, Ellie," he promised. Without hesitation, he nosed at her hand, urging her to hold on to him. "Just follow me." Ellie looked hesitant, but as the wind howled around them, she took a shaky breath and nodded. Together they moved cautiously through the snow. Every step forward felt monumental as her small hand clutched his fur tightly. The world outside their tiny bubble of connection felt terrifying, but within it, there was a deepening bond. Max felt a sense of duty vibrating throughout his entire being. He would not fail her. "Do you like teddy bears?" he asked, hoping to distract her from the uncertainty. She smiled weakly, holding up the bear as they walked. "His name is Mr. Fluff." "Mr. Fluff, huh?" Max grinned. "I bet he's a brave bear, just like you." As they stumbled back through the snow, they emerged into a clearing where the faint glow of flashlights pierced the storm. Max's heart raced. There were familiar faces, villagers searching with unwavering resolve. "Max." Sarah's voice was a lifeline that cut through the chaos. Her eyes were filled with both relief and disbelief as she watched him approach with the girl at his side. "I found her. This is Ellie." Max barked excitedly, nudging Ellie forward. As the villagers gathered around, their faces illuminated by the flashes of light, Ellie's eyes lit up as she saw the warmth of the crowd. Again, hope surged through Max. Maybe this storm wouldn't take everything from them after all, but just as laughter and joy began to fill the air, the distant sound of another weak voice slipped through the dark. "Help! Help me!" Ellie's eyes widened, fear flashing across her face. Max's instincts kicked in again, louder than before. There was still someone else out there. Would he be able to bring more than one lost child back home, or had the storm claimed yet another soul? Max's heart sank at the sound of that feeble cry. The flickering light from the villagers only added to the tension in the air. Ellie clutched Mr. Fluff tighter, anxiety replacing the hope that had just begun to emerge. The last thing he wanted was for her to feel the weight of fear again. "Hold on to my fur, okay?" he said softly, trying to keep his voice steady. "We'll take a quick look. You stay close to me." Ellie nodded, though the shivering never left her small frame. Max turned, retracing his steps into the biting wind. Each gust pressed unrelenting against his body as he fought to hone in on that desperate call. The world had shifted, the storm felt alive, swirling chaos that could swallow him whole if he let it. "Help! Someone, please!" The voice was getting louder, more urgent. Max pushed harder, his legs burning from the effort. He could sense Ellie's small breaths quickening, and his heart ached for her. "You're being so brave," he encouraged, glancing back at her. "We're almost there. I promise." They weaved through the trees again, the snow now clinging to Max's fur. The faint outline of another figure appeared ahead, hunched over and barely visible. Max's hope soared, but he slowed his pace, approaching cautiously. He couldn't afford to be reckless, he had to protect Ellie. As they neared, the outline became clearer. It was a boy, no older than Ellie, his face buried in the snow, breath fogging the air. Max called out gently, "Hey there. We're here to help you." The boy stirred, lifting his head. His cheeks were raw from the icy wind, and his eyes were wide with fear. I can't move," he stuttered, his voice quivering. Max moved closer, nudging the boy's shoulder with his nose. "Just lean on me, I got you." The boy glanced at the little girl struggling behind Max, confusion mingled with fear. Who are you?" "This is Ellie," Max said, his voice warm. "I found her in the snow, and now we're going to get you both home. Just hold on to me." With great effort, the boy grabbed onto Max's collar, his fingers shaking. "I'm Jake. I got lost too. My friends, they left without me." Ellie's voice rose, trembling as she took in their situation. "But we'll get you home. Right, Max?" "That's right," he said, every word a promise. "Now, stay close, both of you. We'll keep each other safe." With paths carved from trust and fragile hope, they began to move. Snow sloshed beneath Max's paws as he guided them back through the tempest. Each step echoed their struggle and resilience, breaking through the suffocating silence of the storm, but just as they neared the clearing where they had escaped moments before, the winds picked up again, shrieking like angry spirits. The light from the village flickered in and out, like a candle in the turbulent night. "Hold tight. We're almost there," Max shouted, though his own heart raced with uncertainty. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted. An unseen layer of snow gave way, sending Jake stumbling, his grip faltering. "No!" Ellie cried, panic flooding her voice as she watched her new friend slip away into the shadows. Max lunged, instinct taking over. Could he save both of them? A desperate thought crossed his mind. Could this storm truly take away both children? With a fierce determination, he took a deep breath and sprang forward, his paw outstretched as he tried to catch Jake before he vanished completely. Would he manage to keep them both safe, or would the storm's ferocity prove insurmountable? Max's heart raced as he lunged, his outstretched paw cutting through the frigid air. The world around him blurred into a whirlwind of white, the howling winds drowning out Ellie's frantic screams. It was a split second, a moment suspended in time, where Max felt the weight of not just Jake, but of Ellie's hopes and fears resting on his shoulders. That he found Jake's collar, his teeth gripping it firmly as he pulled with all the strength he could muster. The boy's eyes widened with surprise, fear mingling with trust. "I'm slipping," Jake gasped, panic piercing his voice. Max could feel the boy's body struggle against the shifting snow, the cold seeping into Max's fur like icy fingers. "Hold on. I want to let you go," Max barked with every ounce of certainty, pushing back against the storm's relentless force. He stayed low, bracing himself against the ground like a steady rock. Ellie was by his side, her small body leaning in as she grabbed onto Max's fur, determination flickering in her scared eyes. With a heave, Max tugged Jake closer, knowing this was no ordinary rescue, this was life and death. The storm raged, but the bond of friendship formed in that desperate moment felt like a shield against the chaos. Finally, with one more mighty pull, Jake's feet found the solid ground again, though he stumbled to regain his balance. "I'm okay," he shouted, breathless, his wide eyes gleaming with relief. Ellie hugged Mr. Fluff, her face a mix of awe and disbelief. "Max! You did it!" she exclaimed, joy bursting forth like fire in the cold, but their moment of triumph was short-lived as the winds howled harder, swirling flurries of snow around them like a blinding curtain. The village's lights flickered ominously, reminding them of the safety that was still out of reach. Max could feel fatigue setting in, each breath now a labor, but he knew they had to push through. They had each other now. "Quick! We have to get out of the storm," Max urged, leading the way as Ellie and Jake followed close behind, their breaths coming out in frantic puffs. They raced through the chaos, weaving between trees, desperately aiming for the flickering glow of the village that now felt like a distant dream. Just as they began to feel a surge of hope, a deafening crack echoed through the air. Max froze, heart racing again. Ahead, a massive branch, heavy with snow, fell across their path, blocking them from the safety of home. "We can't go back," Jake cried, taking a step back as fear clouded his expression again. Max turned to Ellie and Jake, seeing the uncertainty in their eyes. "We have to look for another way," he said, his voice steady, though his own heart pounded in his chest. "But we'll find it together." Ellie released a small nod, determination flickering back into her wide eyes. "I trust you, Max," she whispered, Mr. Fluff still clutched tightly. Jake swallowed hard, glancing at the path behind them where the storm roared. Time was running out, and their journey wasn't over yet. But if they were together, maybe, just maybe, they could outsmart the storm. "Follow me," Max barked, leading them once again into the swirling chaos, ready to navigate through whatever challenges lay ahead. But beyond the swirling winds, something darker loomed in the distance, a shadow moving through the storm. Max's instincts pricked at him. Was it friend or foe? As they pressed forward, Max wondered what other surprises awaited them. Would the storm surrender its grip, or would something unexpected emerge from the shadows, testing their bond once more? Max pressed forward, his instincts tingling with unease. The snow whipped around them, sharp and blinding, but the shadow in the distance pushed him on. He could sense Ellie and Jake's anxious glances, the trust they placed in him solidifying like ice in their hearts. "Stay close," he growled, urging them forward against the pulsating storm. Each paw step felt heavy, the biting cold stealing strength from his legs. He could hear Ellie's soft voice behind him, whispering words of encouragement to Mr. Fluff. "We're going to be okay. Max will lead us home," she said, though Max could hear the tremor in her tone. Jake's breaths came in quick bursts, his uncertainty pulling at Max's heart as he tested the boundaries of bravery. As they ventured deeper, the shadow grew clearer, a towering figure shrouded in swirling snow. It loomed like a giant against the storm, and Max's protective instincts roared to life. "Stay back. He barked over his shoulder, trying to keep both Ellie and Jake behind him. The figure moved closer, revealing ragged edges and an unmistakable shape, a person, hunched over, staggering through the storm like a broken branch caught in the wind. Max's heart raced, the warmth of compassion roaring within him. It might be someone who needs help, he thought, fighting against his fears. Do you see that? Jake shouted, pointing as his eyes widened. Ellie quickly covered her mouth, her grip on Mr. Fluff tightening. We should turn around, she whispered, but Max's muscles coiled with determination. No, he said firmly, we need to see if they're okay. With a few strides, he led Ellie and Jake closer. Hello. He called out, his voice cutting through the whistling winds. Are you all right? The figure paused, stunned by the sudden voice in the storm. Max felt a shudder of fear pass through him, but he stepped closer, ready to protect his friends. The stranger lifted their head, revealing a pale face, cheeks frostbitten, eyes glassed over with desperation. Max's heart sank. It was an older man, his beard caked with snow, and he sagged against a tree like a leaf ready to fall. Help, he rasped, his voice barely audible over the howling winds. Max exchanged glances with Ellie and Jake. They could see the fear in each other's eyes, but they also recognized the flicker of hope. We can't leave him, Jake exclaimed, stepping forward as his courage ignited. We need to get him to safety. Ellie nodded, her eyes bright with determination that masked her fear. Max's heart swelled. Okay, but we need to be smart about this, he said, glancing back at the weary man. Hold on tight, and together, we can get him moving. As they moved closer to the man, the fierce winds pushed harder, like the storm wanted to swallow them whole. Max could sense the urgency, time was slipping away like snow through fingers. He moved toward the man, nearing him to assess the situation. The eyes that met Max's spoke of loss and an overwhelming despair, the kind that gripped souls in the darkest hour. Can you stand? Max asked gently. The man nodded weakly, shifting his weight from the tree. With a surge of adrenaline, Max knew this was their chance. He half-turned, looking at Ellie and Jake as they instinctively moved to the man's sides. On three, Max said, and with collective strength, they helped lift the man off the tree. The struggle against the storm intensified, but they pressed on, battling the crushing veil of snow, feeling an odd unity forming, powerful against the cold. But as they made their way, a chilling realization struck. How would they ever navigate back to the village with this added weight? Would their bond hold strong when tested further? Even through the storm, Max held on to hope, fierce and warm. But as they trudged through the shifting snow and deepening darkness, he couldn't shake the feeling that the shadow behind them loomed larger, hunting, and waiting for the right moment to pounce. What else was hiding in the storm? Max felt the weight of the man leaning heavily against him. Every step they took seemed like a battle against an invisible force, the icy wind howling almost in protest. Ellie and Jake stayed close, their faces set with determination, but Max could still see the flecks of doubt clouding their eyes. Keep moving, Max urged, his own heart urging him to push forward despite the turmoil inside. He could feel the older man's breath against his side, shallow and unsteady. Just a little further. We're getting you somewhere safe. The man nodded, his grip weak but firm on Max's fur. The three of them shared a connection and understanding that they were all intertwined in this moment, fighting against the storm together. Max could sense the warmth of their bond urging him on, but as he glanced back, the shadows seemed to stretch out further, like dark fingers probing through the blizzard. Max! Jake shouted, and it took Max a heartbeat to register the panic in his voice. He turned to see Jake pointing, lips shaking. Look! A shape loomed behind them amidst the falling snow, darker than the clouds above. Panic seized Max for a split second. It took everything in him to keep his feet planted, to not show fear. Focus on the man. He barked back, trying to keep their minds off whatever was trailing them. Ellie nodded, her lips pressed into a thin line, directing her attention back to the older man, who was now visibly trembling. "Can you keep moving?" she asked, her voice steady despite the quiver. "I'll try," the man replied, leaning heavily against Jake and Max. With renewed energy, they forged ahead. Every foot forward was a test, every gust of wind a call to doubt and retreat. But they persevered. The sight of the man's frostbitten face weighed heavily on their spirits. Finally, when they thought they could break through the storm, they spotted a faint golden glow flickering in the distance, their village's welcome lights. Hope surged through Max. "There it is. Just a little further," he barked. But the shadow behind them didn't relent. Max felt fear gnaw at his insides, but he couldn't show it. He couldn't let Ellie, Jake, or the man see his doubt. "Stay close," he commanded, giving a fierce yank forward as they rushed toward safety. The moment they hit the edge of the town, the howling winds turned into distant whispers. With determination, the children hoisted the man up the last few steps as he stumbled, and they huddled together beneath the archway. "Someone help!" Ellie cried, her voice breaking through the veil of snow. A figure in a heavy coat appeared, eyes wide with concern. As they rushed to help, Max's chest tightened. He glanced back, half expecting to see the looming shadow close behind. But there was nothing. Just the vast emptiness of snow that seemed to dance around them now. The man fell to his knees, overwhelmed with gratitude or exhaustion, Max couldn't tell. Ellie and Jake knelt beside him, their faces full of worry and wonder as they scrambled to bring him warmth. But deep within Max, a corner of doubt still lingered. What was that shadow? He thought, staring at the once ominous blizzard. As the townsfolk wrapped the man in warm blankets and pulled him into their arms, a wave of relief washed over Max. Yet, even in this moment of safety, his instincts prickled. He couldn't shake the feeling that danger still lurked in the storm's silent shadow. Where did it go? He whispered to himself, his heart racing, but the answer would come, he felt it in his bones. It was far from over. Would the shadow return? And what would they face next? As the echoes of cheers and relief surged through Maplewood, an unexpected stillness settled over the village, flickering like the last embers of a dying fire. Max, still panting from the exertion, couldn't help but notice how quickly the warmth of celebration thinned under the weight of fear. As townsfolk surrounded the man they rescued, Max sensed a ripple of uncertainty. Is everyone okay? Is there anyone else out there? He thought, his heart pounding in unison with the worry painted on the faces around him. The townspeople, still collectively coaxed by adrenaline, began to whisper. Sarah held Lily tight against her chest, tears of relief gleaming in her eyes. "Please, let us make sure. We can't leave anyone in that storm," she urged, her voice cracking with motherly concern. Max perked up, anticipation coursing through him. The dark shadow that loomed behind the storm could still be lurking, and it didn't reside solely in the winds. No. It lingered in their hearts, the fear of not knowing who else could be lost, and whether they could face the bitter cold of reality together. "Max, we need you," Officer Harris called, rallying the search parties once more. The tone in his voice transformed from urgency to defiance, compelling everyone to rise above their doubts. As families spread out to form new search teams, hope ignited something brighter than the chilling winds outside. Feeling the weight lift from his shoulders, Max sprang into action, leading the charge as a band of brave villagers armed themselves with shovels and lights, ready to plunge back into the darkness. With Ellie and Jake by his side, their resolve cemented into a bond of shared bravery, they moved as one. The snow crunched beneath their feet, punctuating the determination thrumming through the group. Max's heart raced, the pulse of hope igniting every fiber of his being. He wouldn't abandon the town, nor would he permit any more fear to overshadow their community. Their voices rallied against the howling winds, calling out names, whispering prayers, and sharing stories of those they loved in all the chaos. Each name echoed like a beacon, and Max felt the urgency energize him further. "For every lost soul," he barked, "we'll find our way back." The shadows may dwell in the storm, but the light they carried within was stronger. As they pushed deeper into the blizzard, Max caught whispers of familiar scents, of warmth mingling with the winter, and hope surged again. Suddenly, Ellie tugged at Max's fur. "Look!" She pointed, her small finger shaking. "There. Is that someone?" Max zeroed in, eyes sharp against the swirling chaos. In the distance, a faint figure staggered, moving aimlessly through the snow, small and vulnerable. "This way!" he barked, the sound booming through the storm as they raced toward the apparition that lay ensnared by uncertainty. As they approached, the figure became clearer, a small girl, lost, shivering, just like Lily and Ellie before. "Lucy!" Ellie shouted, recognition illuminating her sacred smile. Max rushed forward, nudging the girl gently. The spark of hope ignited. Lucy blinked through the haze of snow, eyes widening as they met Max's. "I thought I'd never find my way," she whispered, trembling. "You're safe now," Max said, his body radiating warmth. "We're here together. Let us go home." Lucy captured the spirit of their surrounding camaraderie, her small hands gripping onto Max's fur as they turned back, victorious. The journey home rippled with echoes of joy, camaraderie, and resilience. As they neared the threshold of their beloved Maplewood, the wind softened, and the storm seemed to yield against the unstoppable force of unity that surged from every heart present. Finally emerging back into the light of the village, smiles broke free like the dawn after a long night. Max felt their hearts rejoicing, thanks echoing all around, every one of them transformed by love and the strength of community. They had weathered the storm, not just the physical snow but the tempest of strife that had once divided them. It took the fears of a single night and the bonding of a community for realization to settle deep in their souls. As they gathered under the archway, the cold melted away under the warmth of their triumph, and laughter blended with tears of gratitude transformed the air. "We're stronger together," shouted Officer Harris, raising his hand as the crowd erupted into applause. That night, as they huddled together around warm fires, stories of bravery flowed like hot cocoa. For every life saved, a new story emerged, one of compassion, courage, and connection through shared struggles. The shadow of fear dissipated into the ether, replaced entirely by the vibrant spirit of Maplewood. Max sank into the warmth of care and connection among the villagers. Souls renewed, they understood what it meant to rise stronger together. In that moment, he looked around, realizing they would never lose sight of each other again. They would protect one another, because Maplewood was no longer a ghost of bitterness, it was a testament to love, heart, and unwavering hope, a town reborn. Now that you've experienced this inspiring finale, you need to subscribe now to stay up to date on the most powerful stories. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. And leave a like right now to fuel our algorithm and keep these heartwarming stories coming. Comment below to let us know how you felt about the ending. Your voice matters.